much planetary action this past year, this past 6 months, and especially, and this past 9 months with lockdown, and all of these things seem to be kind of in a wave of a crescendo coming towards Monday. So we've got this, today we've got 12/12, which numerologically is a special day. It's like a good portal day, 12/12/2020, and you know we like our dates for things. So a perfect day to do a Saturday Soul Social. Today there's a Venus Moon conjunction in Scorpio, so that's kind of an energy that's around today. There's kind of like this, Scorpio is quite a darker sign, so it's kind of getting deep and going within. And we've got Venus, our planet of love, and our Moon, which is our planet of emotion, both in this kind of deep sign of as a Scorpio. I always like to describe Scorpio as a water sign, but it's almost like that still waters that you have to kind of shake up a little bit, because if you don't, you get this kind of stagnation, and there can kind of be hidden things under the surface. So water signs are always quite like, ooh, nice, but Scorpio in particular is very like, ooh, what's hiding under there? So you're going to need to shake it up a bit. So this kind of Moon emotion and Venus, kind of like the way we love, the way we accept love, the way that we show love in Scorpio, is very fitting with how we're doing this fear to love, because we have these fears around love, these fears of expressing love, saying I love you to people, and this kind of, and it's kind of about this kind of energy kind of would support just trying to get rid of that fear. Just tell people you love them when you love them. There's nothing to hold back here, you know, there shouldn't be any fear in that. You know, you should, we should, it kind of invites you to be brave, express yourself, like love the people that you love. And just express that without fear of rejection, without fear of, or that expectation, how you have that expectation, oh, I can't say I love you in case he doesn't say I love you back, or, you know, that kind of thing. It's like, you know, just stand proud and be like, no, I love you. I don't have any care of what your response is back to me. I'm just going to stand in that power of my feeling and how I'm embracing that. So that's kind of one of those things, nuggets for Steve. Carole's like, for today, I've had to write down the dates because there's so many things happening. So we've got, today is 12/12, a lovely day. Then we've got the 14th, Monday, we've got the solar eclipse happening then. Both the sun and the moon are both in Sagittarius. So we're in Sagittarius season, we're deep in Sagittarius season. That actually lasts until the 21st. So Sagittarius season is quite fiery, it's quite abundant, it's quite joyful, it's all of these things. It's ruled by, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which is our big planet, our biggest planet. It can be quite excessive at times, but just now with lockdown kind of like being pushed down to regress, that kind of usual feeling of Sagittarius has kind of been restrained somewhat. So we have this solar eclipse coming up on Monday, where both the sun and the moon are in Sagittarius, and that kind of opens up this portal, this week-long portal, to bring us through to the 21st. So I don't know, I don't want to say it's like the last chance saloon to like clear those karmas, or, you know, you're not getting through on the 21st if you've not done the work. That's kind of the feeling though, that's kind of the feeling that we're getting.
We're not totally saying it, but...
You know, you've got to like, just have a wee think, you know, what work have I done this year? This year in particular has been very purging, you know, it's been very difficult for a lot, it's been very liberating for a lot, it's been, you know, what has the emotional kind of thing been for ourselves in this year? Kind of, it's a nice chance to look... It's a nice chance to look back and see what we're going to bring through into the next year, into the next timeline really, because we've got this kind of big conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn happening a week later. So yes, so Monday kind of begins that portal, and we were talking about Kriyas that we kind of you know, lend themselves to something that we could practice on Monday, or we might possibly do that, like do a live on Monday, possibly. Anyway, it would be the clearing of the karmas, you know, Wahe Guru, like this. So, you know, it would be a nice chance if you could have the time to commit to something like that for 7 days to bring you through until the 21st. So the conjunction on the 21st is when they're just in nearly perfect alignment. So when we look out on Monday night to the southwest, just on the horizon. You've probably seen Jupiter and Saturn hanging out there like for about 4 or 5 months now. They're really bright on the horizon. Obviously we're seeing Jupiter as the brightest, that's our biggest star, and then Saturn's just off to the left, I think. But in the next few days, you'll see them coming closer and closer and closer, and then on the 21st, if you can, I think our sunset is at 3:30. If you can get out at like 4:30 in the afternoon, 5 o'clock, you'll see the perfect conjunction. They're like at 0.1 degree conjunction, so they're not bang on, they're just slightly off, but from the naked eye, they'll look like a bigger, brighter star. They'll look like one entity. So it's a really special thing to happen. If you come back on the 21st, I'll tell you more about that conjunction. But I know I'm going on a bit, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
The feeling that the energy that I wanted to concentrate on today is that we're in the last degrees of Capricorn. So that's again, as I was saying before, like look back on the last year when these two planets have been together. What has changed? What structures have fallen in my life, in my community, in my my working life, my family life, my social life? What are the structures that I kind of just took for granted that have fallen apart? And how do we then rebuild? So this 29 degrees is a really important degree in astrology. It's called the energetic degree, and it's kind of energetic, and it's kind of like it's the kind of the last chance saloon degree. It's kind of it's got this feeling of on a roller coaster, and all of this energy has been building, and you're just about getting to the top, and it's slowing down, and it's making all those cracky noises, and you're like, I don't want to be on this anymore, but there's no getting off. Like you're just there tiptoeing over the edge. So we're kind of just on that kind of like panic, like, oh God, what has changed? What work have I done? What have I not done? Oh, that kind of feeling, but it's like, it's okay. Breathe through it. We're all okay. We're all on the ride together. And there's kind of a feeling of vulnerability in that. So the 29th degree, like you can be born on the 29th degree of the sign. I'm actually an energetic Sagittarius, so I'm born right on the last day of Sagittarius, 29. And it makes for people that are quite emotive, they read a lot into people, into actions, they're quite like deep, like it can be a little bit, you're vulnerable, so you're looking for the vulnerability in others, or you recognise the vulnerability in others. So there's this 29th degree feeling in astrology. It's like you've been through the trials and tribulations and the high times and the low times of the full sign, and we're just about to take that breath of the next sign, the new sign, the kind of spring air, but we're just still in the sign before. So we're kind of in that last few days of that Capricorn energy, which can feel so heavy because we've been there for such a long time. Capricorn is earth sign. It's that sea goat, the goat that's kind of like just trying to always get to the top of the hill, like plodding on, and it's kind of like that energy just now. And then the planets will go into Aquarius and we'll get this kind of like breath of fresh air. So it's a tough week, but we can get through it. And I would just encourage you to think over the last year when these planets have been in Capricorn together. They've been doing this really cool dance in Capricorn. It's these planets move together all the time. Every 20 years they do this kind of through one sign, having a conjunction in a sign. So every 20 years there's kind of like reset in thinking. There's a new something. There's a new thing. So if we think about in 1980 was the last time, and they were in Taurus then. That's a really earthy sign, but that in 1980, I think Google was invented and things like that. Our lives really changed because of one thing. Just now there's Corona, so our lives are really changing. How is that going to look in another 20 years?
It places us on a time scale.
Yeah.
And I guess, so if we want to move into the, if we start kind of now moving into the yogic side of it, there's a lot of shifts going on as well on the yogic philosophy and the timelines that have been spoken about, particularly in my discipline, which is Kundalini Yoga. So we are we're changing Kali Yugas, we are going into this new timeline of Aquarius. So in the yogic sense, in the Kundalini Yoga sense, we're shifting energy from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, and this is yogic technology helps us draw that into kind of our own individual experience. So what Autumn's been talking about so eloquently is kind of the global picture, like what's happening collectively, right? So as beings on this planet, we are existing in this frequency field that has these large bodies, these astrological bodies that have their own frequencies and are influencing us all, right? In this one kind of collective way. But we're each sovereign little selves, existing within that. And so this technology then, this yoga is a direct tool that we can use to also influence our experience of this, so that we're not just swaying around in the big waves and riptides of the planetary energies, that we can take some power into ourselves, but always with a feeling of we are also serving others, right? So this is something that has really evolved for me over the lockdown, is this sense of the more I serve myself, capital S, the more I serve others, right? I find that the word service sometimes, for me anyways, has this kind of loaded feeling like, oh, I gotta serve, right? But that's shifting now. I think that we're understanding that, on a global scale, the currents are so massive that we need to stay, we need to have an effect on the frequency that we are emitting, and this is how we're going to serve. And it's not serve like bring you a cup of tea, although it could be, but it's serve as in like tune myself up so that my frequency that I'm emitting, much like the large astrological bodies, my frequency is now serving others as well. If I show up in the room and I'm like, crippled with panic, fear, anxiety, which unfortunately a lot of us are, and that's okay. This is happening in the world, but we have the power, we have the sovereignty to alchemize that feeling in the moment, right? So that's Kundalini Yoga. That's that bit. So I feel like there's this big kind of this thing happening here, and then we're able to sit with it. Yeah. So that's kind of my entrance into why the Kundalini Yoga. And the sphere to love. So the negative mind has a very specific purpose that we need. But when it's in balance, it's great. When it's out of balance, it disintegrates into this spin-off, right? So most of our fear is based in the mind. It's what we're thinking about. And to just try to think to conquer our fear by just thinking it away isn't really an exercise that actually works. Or, anyways, conquering fear comes through the body, and the exercise that we can do to shift the alchemy of the body. Because if we're thinking about what we're afraid of and that we don't want to be afraid of the thing that we're afraid of, we're thinking of the thing that we're afraid of, so we're still thinking about that thing and we're still afraid. We do all carry those wounds.
Those things from childhood.
And to recognize that exists in us, and to not kind of keep holding it in and not not dealing with it, so it's leaving it in, and that kind of carries forward into then how we move into life. Right? If we're afraid, we're going to have a different attitude. We're not going to show up in the same way for ourselves and for others. So fear to love, the greatest superpower. So I think what we can do is start thinking about shifting into the yoga.